You're listening to the Impact Warrior Podcast. This podcast was created out of a vision to have like-minded entrepreneurs who have faced similar battles and understand how difficult entrepreneurship can be. We will feature guests who are here to share with you how rewarding the journey can be if you stay focused and disciplined to achieve the desires of your heart. Every business owner will face a certain level of difficulty at some point, regardless of the industry. And we are here to share with you the story of warriors who have knocked down massive walls to inspire you to keep fighting on this journey. Let's conquer the journey together. And here's your host, Casey Zeman.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Impact Warrior. I am so pumped to talk to a guy who I've actually known for years. I mean, if I think about it, I've probably known him for almost like 8-9 years or something. We've done masterminds together. We've had dinners together. I feel like we've played beer pong together. So we've done a lot of cool stuff together. And his name is Greg Hickman. He is the founder of an amazing coaching program called AltAgency. And he's been able to scale his business to 7 figures and beyond. And you know, it's just so awesome to see his growth and his trajectory and what he's done over the years. And I thought he would be a perfect person to come on because of the impact that he's making with his clients, at the same time to also, like talk to him about the warrior concept of this podcast, which is all about like breaking through barriers and like not giving up and like being like saying no to failure. So Greg, welcome to the show, man.
Dude, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So we did play beer pong together, didn't we?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Pretty sure we did. Yeah.
We've skied together. We've masterminded together.
Yes.
Yeah, we've definitely had dinners together.
Mm-hmm. I forgot, right? We skied together. That's right. Right. So Greg, tell a little about what you're doing right now with AltAgency.
Yeah. So we are essentially a training and coaching business, working with small, I call them accidental agency owners or micro agency owners, primarily in like the digital marketing and creative services space, helping them kind of transition from done for you services into done with you, so that they can have a little bit more leverage, profitability, and kind of have more of an impact as they want to grow and scale that up to being able to serve a lot more clients than they've ever been able to serve before when they were selling, their time for money or projects.
Awesome. So now this has changed because I remember you had Scalable, you had some other, I mean, even before then, I've known you since you were doing.
I was doing mobile
marketing.
Yeah.
So, what I love about you is that like, I've never seen you like turn the corner, and maybe you did at one point, I just didn't know, but like, I've never seen you like ever give up. I've seen you evolve and change and go through different industries, and and it's so awesome to see how you've adapted and changed, and I feel like you've also like been this lifelong learner person, and then turned this interesting corner of applying all the things you've learned into being an amazing mentor. And can you want to go into that? Like, like the what it took to actually be able to not stop the flow, even though you felt like the flow was maybe, pausing or hitting a wall or anything. Like what was in you that when you hit a barrier that drove you to keep on going?
Yeah. That's a great question. I mean, I think, the first major like wall that I hit, like you mentioned when we first got introduced, I had spent more than a decade inside of the mobile marketing space, big agencies, small agencies, client side for, big retail brands, and went out on my own and I like just could not crack 10K a month consistently. And I was doing text message marketing, I was doing consulting, I was doing all the things that I was doing for these big companies, but like boiled down to like how a small independent company could utilize it, but just nobody cared. I was arguably still way too early for what they needed as it related to the solution that I had. And I definitely hit a wall. Thankfully, I was involved in communities with people that were like yourself, like on these masterminds, like people just doing bigger things than me that like kept kind of showing me what was possible, even though it wasn't yet working. But like I hit a turning point where, I was, like I said, stuck at 10K and just kind of beating my head against the wall. Sales cycles were long. I didn't really see how this was going to get that much better. And peers of mine, had kind of asked like, what if you just switched what you did? Like, it seems like you have some of these other interests. Could you do something there? And that led into a short exploration of, all right, well, at the time it was like Infusionsoft, now Keep. I was really fascinated by marketing automation. And so I went to some of our friends and like, hey, I know you use this tool. Are you struggling? Can I help you? And like, let's do a little trial to see if I can help. And very quickly that gained traction. I was like, wow, like one call closes. I'm having fun working with people that I like and inspired by versus independent retailers who I could care less about. Mm-hmm. And I walked away from kind of this past identity that I had created for myself of being like the mobile guy, which is a really hard thing. Like I sat on that for like 6 months of, man, I spent over a decade getting to this point, having this reputation. And it was like, okay, do I care more about this reputation or the ability to have a business that, affords me the lifestyle that I want? And I was like, a no-brainer at that point. And I kind of walked away from that reputation and had to like reinvent myself. And that was kind of the first major one. But I would say that like the two big takeaways from that experience were like, I learned, thankfully, again, from the people that I was surrounding myself with, that like I had fallen way too in love with my own solution, like mobile in this case, than like the problem that the person that I was solving or problem I was serving had, which also led me to realize like I didn't really care. I cared more about my solution than the person I was serving. And when it boiled down to it, I didn't really care about independent retail owners. Like I do now as an entrepreneur, but like at that moment, it's just like, I wasn't as intimate with them as I was like, the John Lee Dumases of the world that like we're building something, like I could get behind that. And so like my work was more inspired, which I think just led me to kind of get through all of those other humps, that are just natural inside the game of entrepreneurship. So I think serving people that inspired me was a key piece of that whole journey of just like being able to deal with all of the lows.
So what I love that you said is you focused on, you had to switch your mind to focus on not on, you focused on solving the problem rather than, the sort of the tech, or rather than the, focusing on the one specifics in your mind solution, right?
And the who, right? Because the like when I was like, all right, I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid, nobody cares about this Kool-Aid. Well, what problems do you have? And when they started sharing their problems, like I just couldn't connect with them as much as I felt like I needed to like really go deep and actually care to solve it. If that makes sense. I see, dealing with, a lot of agency owners, we get the people that just chose a niche and a vertical because like there was money there, and now they hit these roadblocks in growth and they're like, why can't I grow? It's like, because you literally don't care about the person that you're helping. Like all you cared about was this niche had money to pay you, and you got to this point, and now you have this friction of, you don't care enough about these people to like go through the pain that is going to be required to go to the next level. And that's why you're going to stay exactly where you're at. And I just I saw that and realized that I'm like, I need to be so energized by the problem and, the who I'm in the trenches with to get through my own lows, when it got hard. And thankfully that was a part of that shift.
What's cool is you're taking that learning experience and now mentoring other people to basically make a decision around that. And like, hey, sometimes you have to reinvent yourself. Sometimes like the whole point I feel of like joining a program like yours is that you have to face those questions head on. You have to have someone who's going to question why you're doing something and lead you down the right path, even if it's super duper scary. And so what you've basically said is like, you started connecting with people that were in, the similar space that you and I know, like the course creators, the people that were, trying to do a lot of change and make a difference in the world, and through their education, right? So when you started doing that, I mean, obviously that led you into obviously creating sort of this hybrid service, but more education piece as well. But did you have to go and do mentorship on your as well to be able to do what you're doing now, like to make that switch? Did you how much education and learning did you have to do to finally figure out what you needed, where you needed this perfect product, market fit type of thing? Like how long did it take? What did you have to go through to get there?
I mean, a combination. I mean, I've invested heavily in coaching, mentors, masterminds, really since 2015. I mean, not that this is like a flex or a brag, but like when I was trying to quantify it the other day, and it's like, it's approaching $500,000 in like just between investment of my own programs, buying programs and courses for my team, books, like masterminds, like it's getting up to that like $500,000 mark. It's easily over 350. And it's all really been a part of helping. But so has like just doing the work. And, just like the path that a lot of our clients take, this wasn't for me, as like, I was a practitioner, like I was in the trenches building funnels and automation for, online influencers, and was doing it. And then started to see trends and started packaging things a certain way. I don't know if you remember this, we partnered for a little bit, like we were building webinar funnels, using your software and like helping people get through the technical hurdles of like getting their message into an automated evergreen funnel and things like that. And so we kept like narrowing down the what we did as we saw, hey, certain things we're doing are viewed as way more valuable. And also they're way more profitable than like some of the Infusionsoft admin stuff that we found ourselves doing. Like, how do we do more of the stuff that provides results and less of the stuff that makes us feel like employees? Yeah. And like our service suite just kept like narrowing. And we like kind of towards that productization path of like, all right, I've codified this thing. Like a client's coming in, it's like boom, 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 boom. We can do it one-on-one. Then we got to the point where, man, this thing is so packaged up and codified that I could do this in a cohort. And so we launched a group cohort, and it was like 10 or 20 people went through the first one. And we're like, all right, like we can iterate and clean that up. And we did it again and we did it again. And then now we have like a rolling program that people come through, and it's like super systematic. So like I had to go through, I believe, all of those iterations to get it to where it's at. And a lot of our clients do too. And, I think a lot of, at least our audience, service providers, and I guess this is probably the same for a coach or consultant or influencer. Like if you want to productize something, like it kind of has to be specialized first. So like you have to specialize, you have to streamline it to the point where you're doing it over and over and over again, because that's where you start to see like the activation points, the loopholes, the, oh, do this, don't do that, the pitfalls, so that you can then put it in a box and say, go, right? Like, and have it be efficient for somebody else. And it was just all of those little steps of figuring it out, doing it one-on-one, small group, one to many, evergreen versus cohort. And that's just been kind of just the process. So I've just kind of just kept following the next clue, so to speak, to like serve a few more people than I did before without really changing all that much.
Right. And obviously the feedback loop of the results you see from those people feed where you're going, next and the next, the next round and the next round. Right.
Yeah. So I always like to say, as we kind of like tell our clients, it's like, historically as a service provider, you get a client, you work hard, do something custom, get another client, you do custom work hard again. It's like, if you're solving the same problem and you're continuing to codify it, like you work hard once and every other client benefits from like that upfront effort, and you're not selling something new every single time. Like you're selling something that's proven, repeatable, predictable. And that's what allows you to charge more money and get people coming to you, because you become known for a specific thing versus just like you're selling your time and your labor. Yeah.
And so I know that you recently interviewed Alex Hormozy in your I saw in your Facebook group. So that was awesome. What impact do you think having the right offer and getting good at kind of the mastery of figuring out your offer or figuring out your audience? Because you had the brand Scalable at one point, and
that was the podcast. Yeah,
it was a podcast. So, but AltAgency, I don't think was always the name of your program, was it?
No, we rebranded the entire company to AltAgency actually January of 2020.
Yeah. And I thought that was like, I was like, when you said it, I was like, that's such a smart move, because he's serving like.
We had been doing, our offer didn't change. It's just our name of our company did, to reflect the kind of our belief, and who we were helping.
So and that was my question. If the offer changed, meaning that, did you start to serve were you serving a wider, like, audience, a swath of audience, versus now you're just focus on agencies who want to change how they're showing up?
Yeah, it's a good question. No, I was always resistant to the word agency personally. Even though like I never called, like when we were formerly Systemly and we were building out funnels for people, like I never looked at myself as an agency, because what I equated to an agency was the traditional agency that I came from, like part of Omnicom, like these big, they full service, they do all of these things. I kind of just, I didn't really put a label on myself, but it was a marketing service provider, really at its
marketing
fundamentals. But everybody else called me an agency. And so I was like, whatever, like I'm not, but okay. And so I never used that word because I was trying to attract more of me, which we were. The person who, they had a skill, they were a technician at something. It grew to a little bit bigger than them, to where they were kind of running a business, and they're like, oh my God, I'm not a freelancer. I'm not a solopreneur. Like I have some help. Like we have a handful of clients. Like there's something here. I don't know, like the business side of the growing this service beyond me, without me being the person doing it. And that's fundamentally what we're teaching, is like, we're teaching the owner to restructure their model so that they can actually be more of the owner and not just the operator. And that was the same path that I had to go down And when I started using the word agency, even before we rebranded, we just started attracting more of the right people. Because like myself, whether I called myself that, I resonated with those problems and those challenges. My clients called me that. And so we do really attract, like I call it the micro agency owner, like kind of, a couple part-time people, maybe one or two full-time people, and or like the accidental agency owner. They're like, oh my God, like I have a team. Wasn't expecting this. I'm not really sure what I'm doing, but I'm here. And that's who we helped. And I don't believe in the traditional agency model. And so originally I was like, I had peers be like, well, you're teaching agencies to not be agencies. And I was like, well, yeah, that's actually kind of true. But I felt like the unagency or the anti-agency was like a little bit too aggressive for what I really meant. Like,
sure.
I just feel like that as service providers, what we were taught was to sell our time for money, and that somehow became the label agency. And like, really, that's not what it means. And like, you just chose to package your expertise in the form of labor. You can choose to package it up a different way. And still, like, there's consulting agencies, there's training agencies, like, so why not add those elements to your business? And it's, the alternative agency is really what it's about. And that's kind of who we speak to now. So it kind of just all came together. For 2 years, I didn't like the name Systemly, but I didn't know what to rebrand ourselves as. But it wasn't stopping us from making money until it was too big of a block for me personally. I had this I'm like, the only thing allowing me to take this to the next level is a clearer vision. And I can't see through that. I don't like this name because it doesn't convey where I'm going. And when we got to this name, I was like, okay, like I could now see, 3-5 years ahead with a lot more clarity.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's the journey of the self-discovery of, what we're supposed to be doing, just the more clarity that comes, over time, it's like, it's the mastery that we have to go through, internally, externally, the education. I mean, so it's like the whole process is required to kind of get to where we have that deep understanding of what we want. And it sucks that you have to go through
it's so hard, man.
Like that you have to go through like $500,000 in coaching and your own like self-discovery and analysis. But like, it's hard. It's so hard.
One thing that I share a lot now that honestly, I don't think a lot of people talk about is like, it seems so simple to know what you want. Like I'm going through again, like determining what I want, like how big do I really want this thing? Like what sacrifices or compromises am I, willing to have and or not have, like non-negotiables. And what I realized was like, and this was more like in 2017, was that because, and I don't know if this was for a while, this was subconscious. And I think this is actually part of the problem. Like if we don't take the time to determine what we want, which like, hey, quick tip, takes, I think, a lot of work. And because it takes a lot of work, we don't do it. And so subconsciously, and or maybe even consciously, we find ourselves in a position where we either adopt or borrow other people's definition of success and what they want. And we like find ourselves in this race to get that thing that we didn't even know, like we didn't even know we were in a race. Like we feel like we're losing and we're like, why am I losing? And you're like, oh, I'm not at this thing yet. But like, when did I decide that I want this thing? Like, why am I on this path? And then you realize like, oh, like I just blindly chose 7 figures because everyone says get to 7 figures. Like, what does that mean to me? Why is that important? What does that look like? And it was definitely not a healthy I mean, it was an unhealthy but healthy time for me, because I had to like do the deep work. I was in 2 different coaching programs that like I just felt like weren't really helping me, and so like I cleaned the deck. I was like,
Yeah.
I can't even hear my own thoughts and my own, like when I speak, I don't even know if these are my words. Like, are these just someone else's words? Like, that's where I was at. And I had to like do some deep work on, what do I want? What does success look like? What does it feel like? And like, I had to write it out. And that allowed me to kind of like come back to, okay, this is where we're going. And I feel good about it because I declared it, I defined it, not just grabbed it off of someone's landing page or heard it from someone else's podcast and it sounded good, you know?
That takes so much. You're exactly right. Cause we get so much influence from the things the things we're putting time and energy into, like we buy programs, or we join coaching programs so that we can know what we need to do to get to this next step, but we're kind of premature as to not even knowing if that's the direction we want to go in. But you're right, we adopt somebody else's goal, and then that becomes our goal, and then it's like, and I completely agree with you on this, like we in the race to try to figure out how to get to here, we also we may our own voices might get lost in that,
and you feel all this resistance and you're not sure why.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's because you're on someone else's journey. That's why.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, I feel like I've done that. I think I did that
we
this
all
year.
do.
Yeah, this year specifically, I was trying to make some changes, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to join everything. It's like kind of thing. Not like I'm going to go to events more or things like that. With 3 kids at home and doing COVID last year, was like near impossible to do any of that. But I chose to invest, and it's really interesting because I've always invested in coaching programs since like 2016, but I over invested this year in the hopes that I could reach this goal. It's almost like I wanted to see if that would create this change that I wanted to see. And interestingly enough, I mean, based on what you're saying, I think I agree with you. I think that we don't see it because oftentimes it's just added noise to the noise that maybe we get on a daily basis. Like my time is, I do meetings all the time, not necessarily like I'm not doing the entrepreneurial thing, as much where I'm like, doing a Facebook Live or anything. I'm mostly doing meetings with team members and stuff like that. And even then that, you kind of get lost in the, with where are we going? What's the direction? Or have I really sat down and decided and thought this through on my terms, So I think that you're right. I think there has to be a point where you take on this self-mastery of understanding what you want and what is your voice versus the noise that you get on a daily basis. So, that's really powerful. So when you did that, you did a clean slate, and then you jumped in and you just like, you had a little more clarity at that point?
Yeah. I mean, obviously it took some time. And yeah, we just started like, baby steps back in the right direction once we realized what that direction was. And then got momentum. And it was really slow, but it felt right. And then, we started picking up steam. 2019 was good. And then 2020 was like our best year ever. And we're on pace to beat that, this year.
Nice.
Like at the beginning of COVID, so like March 2020, we were at 3 people. And right now we're at 11.
Wow.
And we've been at 11 for like at least 5 months. So like we like more than doubled our team size. And like very quickly, I'm like, oh, I need to like learn again now how to, not again, but now I need to learn how to be a leader of all these people. And it's like new skills. Something that you said earlier that reminded me of a quote that I don't know who this actually originates with, but I first heard it because I've heard it varying forms. I first heard it from Brad Martinow from 6th Division, and he said, your business will never exceed your own capacity as an entrepreneur. And so, like, I feel like when the business plateaus, it's usually because like you've plateaued and like you need to up level your own skills, your own perspective, your own decision making, all of those things in order to make room for the business to come up with it. And I think sometimes that's really difficult. And I think also that's a point for a lot of people where like if they don't have that level of self-awareness and or they finally gain it and they realize what's required of them to keep growing, it could be demoralizing. Like they're like, oh my God, like I got to this milestone that I really wanted to get to, and it's not all that it's cracked up to be. And in order to now that I have the knowledge of what I need to do next, I'm not sure I want to do it.
Yeah.
I think I don't know what, having not been in programs, you might not see this, but like, I can tell you that there's people that I was going through programs with in the last 2 years on and off that literally built multiple 7-figure businesses, were completely burnt out, and now are employees of some other entrepreneur, or got acquired or sold whatever they had, which was not much, but like they're like, I don't want to be I'm not the person that's going to take this thing further. Like I'd actually rather go back to, just having a job. I've seen that a lot, like more so. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm at a certain level now, but I'm like, dang, like some of these programs, like literally are burning people out. I think people are chasing this goal that they didn't know wasn't theirs. They got there and they're like, well, this kind of sucks. Like I'm doing all these things that like, it looks great from the outside, but I'm miserable, like on the inside. And like, you got a clean slate again, and you like kind of change who you are again. So I'm intentionally like, and also maybe not intentionally, like just going way slower than what I'm seeing other people do. Like some of my peers are like, dude, like you should be at 6 million this year. I was like so many things went wrong already this year that I'm trying to figure out to like just be a little bit better than I was last year, So like, I'm cool if I don't go from, 1 to 6 in a year. Like I'd be cool with like 1. I'm okay with anything above 1, like let's just grow. Like let's just be a little bit better this year. And if it takes me 5 years to get to that point, then so be it. But like there's so many other things I'm trying to figure out along the way. So I don't know if that's a piece of like actually, to me, I feel like that's where when you talked about the warrior, like the challenges that you're going through, I feel like I'm constantly fighting this desire and urge to, and like, I don't know, in some ways calling to, like, I know if we get to 6 million and 10 million, like the amount of people that we can help, like, and that like, there's a piece of me that is motivated by that and driven by that and being pulled in that direction. But there's also a part of me that's like, I know people that are doing 10 million and like, I still can't see myself doing those things. And I'm not sure I want to. And so like, it's literally like before this call, I was feeling this way. I'll feel this way after this call. And it's like that constant day-to-day battle with that thought.
You're racing their race instead of racing your own race. And I think that, that's the thing about it, is that I'm in agreement with you. I mean, I'm always comparing, and I remember
I'm so bad at it.
I'm really bad at it. And in 2000, I remember like writing stuff like in 2017, like putting on Facebook, like, you see people on this quick rise, but then this quick fall. And I feel like I've always kind of had this like, slow, steady, increase. But, I felt shame in the fact that I'm not up here already, where I was like, I need to be here. I need to be here. And because I kept comparing myself to what I saw. And so, I've done that. Like, we've grown, if I compare like 2019 to 2020, and then and in 2020 to 2021, we definitely grown like more than 35-40%. But it's like the it's really more about like the outside comparison, not the inside. Hey, where did we start, and where have we gone? Where did we, and I'm not looking at that enough to say give props for this already. I'm more so saying, well, that guy did boom from here to here, in that same time. So it's like, we don't honor our own race, I think, a lot of times. And I have to constantly remind myself that I'm running at my pace because of the things that I can only control. Like, I have a certain lifestyle that I want to lead, right? Mm-hmm. I'm father first, father, husband, and then business. So it's like, and as I told you, like, we never took on, any caregivers during COVID, and our kids were like working out of the house for school and stuff like that. So we chose that route. If I, and so I could flip that and put business first, and that would change, everything. But then that would also change everything. That would change, how much impact I can give to my children, or how much I'm around as a father or a husband. So
right.
There's always reasons that we create, and priorities that we create for, for running the race we're running. So, I mean, you're a dad, you have two beautiful kids, so yeah, man. So, I want to ask you a couple of other things. What was there ever a point where you're like, you're like, screw this noise, I'm going to throw it in the towel and like go do something else. Like, I'm going to go work for, Deutsche Bank or something like that. Like, did you ever have that moment?
Not to that level of like go work for like corporate again. But I've definitely had the thought of like, maybe I should just go partner up with someone, or be, on someone else's team that I'm like aligned with their vision. I've actually had 2 different offers from people that were like, if you're ever looking to leave your own thing and like kind of come, like, I would love to have you. And I marinated on it for a minute. Like, I thought about it, like, more so than I'd like to admit, because part of it sounded nice. But at the end of the day, like, when I look at, back to that statement of, the business will never exceed your own capacity as an entrepreneur. I felt like I've been so happy, and like, looking back on everything that I've been through so far, like, I'm really happy at the person that I've become and continue to become, that I'm not done yet, and like, so the challenges that this, running my own business has put me in, or situations that's put me in, is like, I'm continuing to improve and grow every single day. I love learning. And so like, the process is just really fun for me, despite the lows and like the, oh my God, like, money obstacles and, personnel hiring, like dealing with more people as the team grows. Like, all those things are new, and they have their highs and they have their lows. But like, I'm just learning so much, and I'm enjoying that process, that like, that's the thing that kind of keeps me from being like, yeah, like, I'm just going to keep going like the way I'm doing it, because we keep getting better. And that's what's kind of kept me from, I guess, going to get back to get a corporate job.
Yeah. I mean, I completely get it. It's like, it's fun solving that puzzle to a degree, right?
Yeah.
Even though we keep hearing people saying, I have the puzzle piece, I have the solution for you, that I know the puzzle, how to put this puzzle together. And we've kind of gone in and we've seen, yeah, there are things that will, there are success points that will leave clues, but then ultimately we do have to be the one that put the pieces together, right? No one's ever going to put those pieces together for us. And you almost have to be in love with the challenge of puzzle piecing your life and your goals and the impact you want to create in the world together on your own.
Yeah. And I think now that I'm a dad also is really interesting because so like my son is 4.5 and my daughter is just over 1. And, I mean, around that 3-4 range is when I like would start noticing my son would be emulating, like would be modeling me. Starting like he saw me go out my mountain bike, like he's asking about mountain biking, like, like he's, what am I watching? What am I reading? And, as someone who was not a good student in high school, got into college for lacrosse, not because I was a good student, and was like a mediocre student. Like, I mean, I personally, not to go into like educational system, but like, I think our educational system is broken. And I've watched the skill transfer that we've been able to give to our clients inside of our business model. And I think this is why I resonate with someone like an Alex Hormozy of like, if I could give my son and my daughter the skills that I've been acquiring since I've met you, like that is the transfer of wealth that I think they're going to need to succeed. Right. Like, and it's interesting because my wife's a doctor. And so she's like polar opposite, like needs the structure, the most like disciplined, like school system. Like if you're going to be a doctor, you need to go through all that schooling because I see what she does. And like, I would want someone to have gone through that much to like operate on people.
Yeah.
But like from a business perspective, like if my kids aren't, or our kids aren't involved or interested in being a doctor, like I think their education is going to be very much similar to the type of stuff I'm creating for my clients. It's going to be like the online version of, and like experiential version of like trade school. Like, you go and acquire skills, specific skills, like how to be, how to be an agency owner, how to, be a YouTuber. Like those are real things. Like by the time our kids are like going into the workforce. And so part of it's also, I think I'm going to be a big catalyst for maybe how they approach education when it comes time to make some of those decisions. And like, I'm not ready to be like, oh, I'm working for this other person because like, I don't know, that's
want to model that.
I want them to model the like the pursuit of the, skill acquisition and the learning and the ability to go create for themselves, versus, again, if they're a doctor and they want that, that's awesome. I think they should go through that schooling, but I can't really think
even
of any
then,
other
doctors have
schooling
private
right now.
practices. They have that, the creative piece.
Yeah.
So
my wife just bought into a practice. She was joined a private practice. Now she's a partner. And like, she's now asking business questions. Like, I'm like, oh yeah. Like, cause you're part owner now, like you need to worry about the P&L. Like,
you have to know those pieces. One thing I love that you said this is transfer of wealth. I think this is so powerful. I was on Shah Wasman's podcast the other day, and we talked about this transfer of wealth. And as someone who has a transracial family, right, there was a lot of the ability to transfer wealth wasn't as wide range of an opportunity. I think right now, with how school is laid out, it's still, as you just said, there is an inequality around the transfer of wealth, with with a broken education system. I love the idea of democratizing the transfer of wealth. And I think it's important that we do that for our kids, and we do that across the board. And so what's interesting, what you just said is like, you're not just modeling, your kids aren't just modeling you, people are modeling you. And that's what's really powerful, that you can take into the future, like, because that is the legacy. That's where legacy is born from, what you can transfer to your children. But then when you pass it to them, they create their own legacy for their kids and their grandkids. So it's a remarkable thing to think about, that the seed that you're planting right now, and how it can feed you for the next 50 years. If you really think about it, if you think about it and you're like, why am I doing this? What, if there are moments of doubt, moments of struggle, moments of like, oh, this is the challenge, you're creating that seed of generational wealth for years to come. And I mean, that fuels me a bit, when I have those friggin', like, God, I keep hitting this, goddamn wall. Sorry for swearing.
Yeah.
But like, that's like, I have to think about those things,
Yeah. And I think that, people listening, and I think what you're saying is in agreement with what I'm saying as well. Like, when we say transfer wealth, like, I don't think the most valuable thing I'm going to be able to leave my kids is money.
No, it's not the cash that you have in the bank. It's the skill.
Yeah, it's the skills.
It's the transfer of wealth.
It's the beliefs. It's all of those things that, like, because I mean, one of my clients just asked me, like, if you had to start over from scratch, knowing what you know now, like how would you do it? And like, really quickly, I was like, boom, 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 boom. Like, this is what I would do. Like, so while I don't want to have to start over from scratch, and it would suck, like, I don't feel like I would be helpless. Like, I have a lot of knowledge and skills that I could go recreate what I've already done. And I actually feel really confident in doing so. So like, for your kids, and at least my kids, like, for them to be able to lose everything and not like dither, and like be able to like have the confidence that they'll just get it right back. Like, that's far more valuable than like me leaving the money, because if I don't teach them those things, they'll blow the money faster than they could have anyway. So, and I've blown money that's been given to me too. So I definitely made some poor money choices, but so that, I think about that all the time.
Well, so, I just want to thank you, man, for your time today, because this was awesome. The things that I think about in summing up Greg Hickman are, leaving this, like, I know you have you don't love the word impact because it's used so friggin' much by everybody, but let's change that.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of this conversation, to legacy, because I feel like legacy and impact, they go very much hand in hand, and a lot of people don't think about they don't think impact can be so minuscule, can be so singular as the act of passing insight and knowledge into your children, where then they take and they can create impact from that knowledge that you pass. So I just want to say, like, hats off to you for creating impact in the world, and also creating a legacy with how you are, showing up in your business, which obviously shows your children what they can accomplish in the future. So hats off to you, brother. I
appreciate that.
Yeah. So, we're gonna come to a close, but one thing that people don't know about you, give it to me. Come on. One thing. One thing. I mean, I kind of just alluded to it, but like, I'm a really avid mountain biker. I used to race amateur, professional for like 4 when I first moved to Colorado. So are you still doing? You're still doing it all the time. You're still
That's my
doing
church,
it all the time.
man.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
it. And you went to school for lacrosse, right?
Basically, yeah, a D3 school, but I
That's
had no business. I would have never gotten in there if I did not play lacrosse.
that's awesome. All right. I dig that. And finally, how can people learn more about the Hickman? Where can people go?
Yeah, the best place is my YouTube channel. Just go to gregsvideos.com. It'll take you right to my YouTube channel, or just look up Greg Hickman on YouTube. Having fun over there.
And I have to finally, one more plug for Greg is like he is my model for, I'm trying to model Greg and how he's showing up in his videos. Like he's been doing so many videos, so many YouTube videos. And they've been doing an awesome job over at his company, because I'm basically retargeted for every video. I see every video Greg has coming down the pipeline. And it's like this guy's always in my face. And he's always speaking something that I want to hear. So,
That's cool.
Yeah. So hats off to you for
yeah,
for showing up and doing the work. And you do that every Thursday, right?
Yeah, new video every Thursday. We slice it up, gets spread out into the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done, when I first launched the channel, it was 2 a week, but I went to 1, and yeah, I haven't missed a week since like 2015.
That's amazing.
16.
And it's shown, because like your content library has just obviously grown. Your subscribers have grown. I'll ask you this final question. If there's any marketing medium that has worked better than others, what is it for you?
I mean, I think it's an unfair question, sort of, because like the YouTube channel, while it's growing slower, the way we utilize the content from like a nurture perspective, like people find us usually through ads, some like percentage wise. But like the number of times on our sales calls, they say, saw your ad, found your YouTube channel, binge watched your YouTube channel, scheduled a call, bought your program, like is not uncommon. Like it happens a lot. And so like, I think it really does a lot for like, it brings people into our world, our methodology, our beliefs, and they can see themselves working with us very quickly because of the content we do there. But from like a bang for buck acquisition, I mean, running paid traffic into another video that's very similar to a YouTube video has been really, really impactful for us, for just getting in front of more people.
You take the same YouTube video and turn it into an ad, don't you?
We use it in kind of like our middle of funnel. We'll just run the whole video as just kind of to make sure people don't forget about us. And so each new video every Thursday, right, gets a little bit of ad spend to a specific audience that's already in our ecosystem. So it doesn't cost a lot. And it's just a video view, runs for a couple days before the next one comes out. So yeah, every time we put a little bit of dollars behind every video, both on YouTube and on Facebook.
I think what I see is that you are leveraging the video, the content that you're creating, the content marketing, whether you're putting it into the middle of the funnel as a retargeted ad, or whether you're posting weekly. Yeah. Or
webinars are video, I mean,
or webinars. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, people are like, webinars are dead. I was like, that's because your webinar sucks. It's like, it's like, if you had a good webinar, it wouldn't be dead. Exactly. Maybe getting people there profitably is hard for you, which is hard for a lot of people right now, but they still work really, really well. So much so, and I know we're like way off topic, but like, it's okay. You were trying to end, but because you obviously run a business based on webinars, our costs to get people to watch our webinar like went really high with the whole iOS thing, like a lot of people. And so we diverted to like lower hanging fruit PDFs and guides which allowed us to bring down our cost per acquisition, but like our lead quality like severely dropped. With that, our like volume of, booked calls dropped heavily because you just can't convince people through a PDF, like oftentimes. And it's like, even a 15-minute video, can do a real powerful job to convince someone to chat with you and your team. And when we just relaunched our most recent one, like, it's like, oh, like they're the quality leads, there they are.
So you didn't, you put a webinar back on the thank you, on your thank you page or something. Is that what you did?
We temporarily were driving to different lead magnets, and now we're back to our webinar.
Okay. All right.
Mini webinar, VSL, whatever you want to call it. It's like 15-minute long video.
Okay.
But done very webinar style. I'm sharing screen. I'm drawing my iPad, just like my YouTube channel.
Yep. And then driving book a call at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that definitely webinars, middle of the funnel webinar strategy, or even top of the funnel, like, I mean, if you can, so it looks like you got through the iOS thing and you started up on that path again. Yeah. You're still going to be spending it. Cost per lead for a webinar registrant is probably still
higher,
really high, but you're getting better quality, right?
100%. Yeah. And they're booking faster.
Yeah.
So, which leads to sales faster. So it's like, I mean, we're still getting leads to our PDFs and stuff. Like you said, it's like we have top of funnel traffic going to it, but we also retarget to it, for all the people that had come in not through that.
Right.
We're not God's gift to paid ads by any means, but we're figuring it out as we go. I think like everybody else.
I still see you all the time. So you're doing something right.
Either we are, or we're wrong. Or we're not.
Well, I mean, it's a retargeting, I'm sure. So I'm seeing probably because I just I'm binge watching and I am probably stalking you. And so therefore you're giving me more, you're showing up because, hey, this guy's stalking me. I might as well give him all what he wants. So, But in the sense of webinars, people say webinars are dead, but no, they are still the fundamental thing that indoctrinates people before you book a call. I mean, otherwise you're having to do all the heavy lifting on the sales call. When we have people use our system to do the webinar, where they do a webinar to a strategy call, the people become order takers at that point. So it's like it's a much different experience, and I think the challenges are with selling a mid-ticket on a webinar. That flow has changed a little. That's not as easy, especially in a sort of an evergreen setting. And I think that oftentimes you don't necessarily have the same quality of customer that you can have when you take someone through a funnel where they're still required to kind of get on the call, right? So you take a two-step sort of like qualifier. And you're just going to get exponentially better people coming in. So I think the evolution, you're still needing that sales presentation that indoctrinates, no matter what. That's never going to change.
I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, not anytime soon, at least.
Yeah. I mean, unless you have somebody else.
I mean, if you look at the amount of content that people consume, obviously, even in 2020 has gone up dramatically, right? Like, YouTube's taken off, like all these, like, I mean, it was already taking off, but like even more so. Now you see more people rolling out YouTube channels. Like every single YouTube video, if you're an entrepreneur, I think if you're doing it right, not every single, but many are basically mini webinars, it's every one of those videos that you post on your channel is an opportunity to convince someone to take the next step. And that's basically what a webinar is, And so you have, 4 minutes to hopefully 12 minutes, 15 minutes plus to get someone to like you and make that next step. And sometimes like on the YouTube world, it happens over multiple videos. But I mean, it's happening that way on, our VSL, whatever webinar is like 15 minutes. And like, you still only get 50% of people. I remember back in the day, it's like webinars, 60 minutes. you're aiming for 50% people to watch the whole thing, or 50% people to show up, 50% of those or whatever to watch the rest. And it's like, you're seeing that same thing with a 15-minute video. It's like, people just have a lot of other things to consume and like a short attention span. And so it is harder, I think.
Yeah. But it's like, you know, there's multiple steps, but I mean and I think the thing you're mentioning is like, is a micro content, macro content sort of strategy, you know, where it's like, you know, short form video, mid form video, webinar, you know, long form and or VSL, which is kind of like that mid, you know, like I think of short form as like 1 to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Longer form is like 5 to 7 minutes. And those both can be on a YouTube channel as an example. And then you have longer form content, which would be like a 15-minute. Well, you can have you could do a 15-minute video on YouTube actually too. You're going to get more views, but then, the VSLs, you know, it's like the 15-minute, or up to like an hour, you know, and I think it's not just a one-pronged strategy. I think, you know, basically video content across the board. If the more video, the better. I mean, that's what I'm seeing too. I mean, it's just like that medium seems to, at least that resonates with you. And I think I resonate with it because I love doing videos too. I just haven't done as many. I just need to jump back in.
Yeah. They keep telling me if I want to keep growing my business, I can't be a consumer, but like, bro, I love watching YouTube. Like there's like some channels that I love. Like there's mountain biking channels that I follow. It's tough for me too, because I find myself, I'm like, oh man, where'd those last, 90 minutes go? I was like, I just watched 5 YouTube videos. It's like, that happens. Gotta work on that discipline.
Now you got to just create your own, mountain climbing or mountain biking channel.
Dude, that's so hard. Like, if you watch the good ones, like talk about production value. I mean, I don't have the chops for that or the patience, really.
You got to just get the hookup, right? You got to get it on the wheels and you get the multi-camera on the bike itself, on the helmet, you know.
They have some next level stuff. For how little money I know that they're making, I don't know if it's worth the effort.
Well, that's where you can fund it with the money you're making. You can fund the production of it. Right?
Yeah.
We can fund the creative.
Speaking of poor investments.
Oh man. Okay. Well, we were going to end a little bit ago, but now.
Good stuff. Gregsvideos.com is where you can find more, is what he was saying.
Yes. Gregsvideos.com. Cool. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Likewise, man.